At my sister's wedding, I was stopped by a security guard and denied entry. "Your name is not on the list," he said coldly. I saw my mother and sister watching and laughing from a distance, but I said nothing and left. The next day, they came to me in tears, begging for help for a reason I never could have expected. It's been years since my father passed away. My mother, Patricia, and my sister, Caitlin, still live in the grand mansion he left behind, nestled in an upscale neighborhood of Westchester County. Meanwhile, I reside alone in a high-rise apartment on the Upper East Side, a modest but comfortable home with a beautiful view of Central Park's greenery. As head of research and development at Metap Pharmaceuticals, my life is busy and fulfilling. I lead a groundbreaking cancer drug development project, managing an annual budget of $100 million and collaborating with esteemed institutions like the Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins Hospital. On weekends, I find solace volunteering at St. Mary's Senior Center. The quiet, meaningful conversations with the residents there provide me with a sense of peace and purpose. This tranquil existence, however, began to unravel when my sister's social media accounts started skyrocketing in popularity. Under the account name @Caitlin Luxury Life, my sister became an overnight sensation, amassing over 1 million followers. Her posts, filled with images of new Hermes bags, Michelin-starred meals, and private jet adventures, captivated young women across the globe. Her blonde hair, always impeccably styled, combined with flawless makeup and designer clothing, made her the epitome of luxury. The rumors of her advertising revenue exceeding $500,000 annually only added to her allure. My mother, ever the social climber, used Caitlin's fame to bolster her own influence within New York's elite circles. With an annual income of over $1 million from our late father's estate, she solidified her position through charitable work and her role as a board member of the prestigious New York Charity Association. But alongside Caitlin's meteoric rise came the harassment, directed at me. Snide comments began appearing on her posts, insinuating I was the black sheep of the family. "How can someone from such a wealthy family live such a plain life?" they'd write. Others mocked me as the family embarrassment. I chose to ignore it, staying true to my principles and my belief in merit over appearances. Then Caitlin dropped another bombshell. She was engaged. Her fiancé, James Harrison, came from a distinguished Boston family. His father was the chairman of a powerful investment bank with deep political and financial connections. Caitlin and James were the perfect socialite couple, and their engagement announcement racked up over 1 million likes in mere hours. Plans for their wedding quickly snowballed into a spectacle. A 400-person ceremony at the iconic Plaza Hotel was arranged, with a rumored budget exceeding $500,000. The guest list included industry elites, societal power players, and VIPs. The event would feature a custom wedding cake from Sylvia Weinstock, Dom Perignon champagne, and a lavish menu with Fiel Osso Buco, all top tier as expected. But amidst all the buzz, I never received an invitation. When I asked my mother, she brushed me off. "You must be busy," she said dismissively. "You've got your hands full with drug development." I told myself it didn't matter. It was Caitlin's special day, and I decided I would still show up for her. Manhattan was glowing under the summer sun that morning. I had risen early, slipping into my simple but elegant navy Ralph Lauren dress. My makeup was understated but carefully applied, and I paired the outfit with a Tiffany diamond necklace and pearl earrings inherited from my mother. As I styled my black hair into a neat, classic chignon, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I let out a quiet sigh. Despite everything, the dismissive remarks, the lack of an invitation, I wanted to be there for my sister. But deep down, a small part of me wondered, did they really want me there at all? I secured the final pin in my updo and took a deep breath, reaffirming my sincere desire to celebrate my sister's special day. Outside my window, the early summer breeze swayed the trees of Central Park, and the sight of joggers making their way down the paths gave me a moment of calm. Arriving at the Plaza Hotel promptly at 11 a.m., I was greeted by a procession of luxury cars, Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, and Mercedes Maybachs, gliding up to the entrance where white-gloved valets hurried about. My modest Lexus stood out, a stark contrast to the opulence, but the valet staff greeted me with unfaltering politeness. "Have a wonderful time, Miss Walker," said a young attendant with a warm smile. I nodded slightly and stepped through the heavy revolving door, entering a space that could only be described as a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, while the Italian marble floor gleamed beneath lavish floral arrangements. Pure white calla lilies and soft pink roses curved gracefully along the tables and walls, filling the air with a faint, sweet scent of lavender. In the lobby, I spotted familiar faces from the pharmaceutical world, Dr. Johnson from the Mayo Clinic and Professor Martin from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. They greeted me warmly, and we fell into an engaging conversation about the latest clinical trial data. "Elizabeth, it's your sister's big day," Dr. Johnson said. "What a stunning venue." "Yes," I replied sincerely. "I truly wish for her happiness." And by the way, Professor Martin chimed in, I hear the new drug trial is showing phenomenal results. FDA approval must be on the horizon. Your research is going to save countless lives. Their kind words offered a brief moment of validation as we continued down the long corridor toward the reception hall. The hallway was alive with chatter, lined with women in Chanel tweed suits and Hermes Birkin bags, their accessories and attire coordinated to perfection. The air buzzed with whispers of the wedding's rumored $500,000 budget, and the walls were adorned with 18th-century French tapestries. Overhead, Renaissance-style murals added to the hall's grandeur, while pristine Casablanca lilies in antique vases filled the corridor with their intoxicating fragrance. As we neared the grand doors of the venue, a security guard in a crisp black suit and a gleaming gold name tag reading Plaza Security stood at attention, holding an iPad. My heart began to race as I approached. Your name, he asked politely. Elizabeth Walker, I replied, my voice steady despite the nerves building inside me. One moment, please. The guard began scrolling through the list, his brow furrowing slightly as he went through the names again and again. My pulse quickened at his hesitation. I'm sorry, he said finally, his tone flat but firm. Your name is not on the list. The coldness of his words hit me like a blow, and it felt as though the temperature in the room had dropped several degrees. Please check again, I said, my voice trembling now. Elizabeth Walker. I'm the bride's sister. He scrolled again, but his expression didn't change. Shaking his head, he said, I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave. At that moment, distant laughter caught my attention. I turned to see my mother and Caitlin standing just a few feet away. Mother wore a pristine white Chanel suit, a Cartier necklace sparkling against her throat. Caitlin, radiant in a Vera Wang wedding gown, held a diamond-encrusted tiara atop her perfectly styled hair. In her hand was the latest iPhone, and she was pointing the camera in my direction, lip streaming for her massive social media audience. The screen of her phone was flooded with comments. Best drama ever. Serves big sis right. Heart emojis floated up in a steady stream. Mother and Caitlin exchanged triumphant smiles, their plan unfolding exactly as they'd intended. Guests nearby looked on, their expressions ranging from confused to apologetic. Some turned away awkwardly, unwilling to meet my eyes. In that instant, everything became clear. The missing invitation, Mother's dismissive words, all of it had been deliberate. A cruel setup for this moment. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and turned on my heel. Without a word, I walked away. Walking through the Plaza Hotel lobby, I felt the weight of concerned glances from acquaintances, but I kept my head high and walked straight ahead without hesitation. Dr. Johnson called out to me, his voice laced with worry, but I simply offered him a small smile and kept moving. When I retrieved my car from valet parking, the young attendant's bright smile had vanished, replaced with a look of pity. Take care, he said quietly. I nodded slightly and slid into my car, my fingers tightening on the steering wheel as I drove away. In the rearview mirror, the Plaza Hotel's grand facade grew smaller against the brilliant, cloudless blue sky. The silence in my car felt heavier than usual as I navigated Manhattan's bustling streets. The skyline of high-rises loomed above, colder and more imposing than ever. My phone screen lit up repeatedly with notifications from Caitlin's social media live stream, but I turned off all notifications and tossed the phone into my bag with a deep sigh. Back at home, I gazed out at the greenery of Central Park from my window, a steaming cup of tea in hand. I tried to find solace in the ordinary sights of joggers, families, and students enjoying the late afternoon sun. But outside, the storm had already begun. The hashtag Walker family scandal was trending. The video of my humiliation had gone viral, shared not only among Caitlin's followers, but also with James Harrison's family. The Harrisons were livid, their reputation now tied to a public spectacle. Pharmaceutical industry VIPs invited to the wedding expressed outrage, and my research partners at Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins were inundating me with inquiries. Inside the Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom, chaos erupted. The sharp clicks of luxury heels echoed as more than half the guests began to leave early, their dissatisfaction palpable. The carefully curated elegance of the event crumbled under the weight of whispers and judgment. By early evening, the inevitable happened. James Harrison stood before the remaining guests, his voice calm but firm. I cannot marry into such a family. I am terminating the engagement. The room froze in stunned silence. Caitlin let out a hysterical scream, her perfect facade cracking in an instant. Mother fainted dramatically, her pearl necklace scattering across the marble floor as the media swarmed to capture the fallout. The once glorious wedding had descended into utter chaos. As the sun began to set, painting the Manhattan skyline in hues of orange and gold, my apartment's intercom buzzed. I glanced at the monitor and was met with a sight I hadn't expected. My mother and Caitlin, their tear-streaked faces filled with desperation. Mother's pristine Chanel suit was wrinkled, and the hem of Caitlin's Vera Wang wedding gown was stained with mud. They looked utterly broken. "Elizabeth, help us." Mother's voice trembled as she pleaded into the intercom. I watched silently as they knelt at my front door, their figures wrapped in luxury brands that now evoked only pity. "Please open up," Caitlin begged, her voice strained. "We'll explain everything. We'll apologize." The social media livestream had stopped, but I could see her phone screen in the background. Critical comments continued to flood in, her follower count plummeting by the second. Sponsors were terminating contracts as the backlash intensified. I took a slow sip of tea, my gaze drifting back to the window. Below, Central Park carried on as it always did, joggers, families, students enjoying the day. The stark normalcy made the current situation feel even more surreal. The intercom buzzed again, followed by increasingly frantic banging on the door. "Open up, please. Our reputation can't take this anymore." The cries and screams grew louder, drawing the attention of the other residents in my luxury condominium. I watched through the security camera as neighbors glanced at my mother and sister with judgmental eyes. Even the security guards approached, asking them to leave. My phone vibrated on the coffee table, flashing Mother's name. Beside it, notifications showed over 100 unread messages and numerous media interview requests. I ignored them all. Then, an unexpected twist. The Plaza Hotel's security footage leaked online. The video captured the moment I was denied entry, along with my mother and Caitlin standing nearby, laughing as they filmed it. The footage spread like wildfire, triggering a fresh wave of outrage. Social media erupted anew, with the video serving as undeniable proof of their cruelty. Comments poured in, calling out their actions as malicious and unforgivable. Caitlin's follower count, once boasting over 1 million, plummeted below 100,000 in less than 24 hours. But that wasn't all. Critical comments began flooding Caitlin's older social media posts. Were all your posts lies? Were those luxury brand ads actually borrowed items? The facade began to crack wide open as investigations into her account gained traction. Contract termination notices from her advertising sponsors poured in like an avalanche. The annual income of over $500,000 she once flaunted was on the verge of disappearing overnight. The fallout didn't stop there. The Harrison family in Boston, enraged beyond belief, filed a massive damages claim. On top of the $500,000 wasted on the wedding, they demanded an additional $1 million for the irreparable harm to their family's social reputation. "The price for damaging our family's honor will not be small," James's father, the chairman of a prominent investment bank, said in a statement. His words were reported by the Wall Street Journal on its front page. The scandal had become a national sensation. Mother, too, faced devastating repercussions. Her exclusion from New York society was swift and brutal. She received an expulsion notice from the New York Charity Association, and other organizations she had been involved with quickly severed ties. "I never want to hear the name Patricia Walker again," one influential figure declared coldly. Her annual income from my father's estate, exceeding $1 million, was sure to diminish significantly after the bank managing the investments terminated their contract. Soon, followers of Caitlin's social media account began dissecting her posts. Inconsistencies were exposed one after another. Was this Hermes bag a replica? Are all the restaurant photos from outside because you never actually went in? Were the private jet pictures taken in a studio? Investigations revealed shocking truths. Most of Caitlin's posts were staged fabrications. The luxury items were borrowed or fake. The glamorous meals? Snapped outside restaurants without ever stepping inside. Even the photos of exotic travel destinations were digitally edited. But the final blow came with the revelation of their actions at the wedding. It was uncovered that my name had been intentionally excluded from the guest list and that the live stream had been pre-planned to create a public spectacle. "I wanted to create the best drama to get the highest viewer numbers," Caitlin confessed in a desperate statement. Her admission caused a public uproar. The world criticized her harshly for trampling family bonds for the sake of followers and advertising revenue. While the scandal brought chaos to their lives, my professional life remained steadfast. My employer, Metap Pharmaceuticals, was flooded with inquiries about the scandal. However, the company's response was swift and resolute. Vice President Elizabeth Walker's achievements in research and development are unshakable. Family issues and her professional capabilities are entirely separate matters, the CEO stated firmly. The statement garnered widespread support within the industry. In fact, the incident unexpectedly increased appreciation for my work. "Elizabeth's research will bring hope to many cancer patients." Professor Martin's words were shared widely in the medical community. Clinical trial data for our new drug showed excellent results, with FDA approval drawing closer. But as my career flourished, Mother and Caitlin's situation continued to deteriorate. The grand mansion in Westchester County was sold to cover the damages owed to the Harrisons. Stripped of their social standing, they retreated into obscurity, moving into a small apartment in the suburbs. How did it come to this? Mother's voice echoed in despair within the cramped apartment walls. All the luxury bags, clothes, and jewelry they once flaunted were put up for auction. The majority of their savings vanished in damage payments, leaving nothing but regret. One day, I found a letter in my mailbox. It was from Mother and Caitlin. The stationery was stained with tears, the ink smudged in places. "We didn't understand your sincerity," the letter read. "We were drowning in vanity and pride, losing sight of what truly mattered. We are deeply sorry for the pain we caused." Though the letter was heartfelt, my mind was already made up. While I could forgive, returning to our former relationship was impossible. The past cannot be changed. We each must choose new paths in life. That was all I wrote in my reply. A year has passed since then. The sunlight streaming through the windows of St. Mary's Senior Center was gentle and warm as I walked down the hallway, finishing my weekend volunteer shift. The serene environment always brought me peace, a stark contrast to the chaos that once surrounded my family. My life had found its rhythm again. My work at Metap Farm continued to progress, bringing me fulfillment. The clinical trials for our cancer drug had succeeded, and FDA approval was just around the corner. Though I often thought of my mother and sister, I knew I had made the right decision. We had all been forced to confront hard truths about ourselves, about what really mattered. And while their path was one of regret, mine was one of purpose and hope. Looking out at the peaceful greenery beyond the center's windows, I smiled softly. I had found my own way, built on merit and integrity. Sometimes, life's hardest moments are what shape us the most. And as I walked through the quiet hallways, I knew this to be true. I had chosen a path my grandmother, and even my father, would be proud of. "Elizabeth, thank you for coming again today," said Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman in her 80s, smiling warmly from her wheelchair. Conversations with her always warmed my heart, and over the past year, my volunteer activities at St. Mary's Senior Center had grown significantly. I now served as a director of an NPO dedicated to supporting the elderly, creating new opportunities to give back. At Metap Farm, my career had reached new heights. My promotion from development director to vice president was finalized after the success of our groundbreaking cancer drug. With FDA approval secured, we were able to offer hope to countless cancer patients. Vice President Walker's leadership is outstanding. Her integrity was the key to success, read one industry article, echoing sentiments shared widely in the medical community. My reputation had become unshakable, bolstered by a steady stream of published research in prestigious journals. The Manhattan cityscape remained vibrant, a testament to resilience and renewal. But while my life moved forward, my mother and sister's lives had changed dramatically. Their social media accounts had been permanently deleted, and their place in society completely vanished. They now lived quietly in a modest suburban apartment, far removed from the glamour they once flaunted. The grandeur of their past was now reduced to faded memories. Occasionally, I received messages from Mother. They were polite and longing. Just once, "I'd like to meet and talk." But I chose not to reply. That was my decision. I had resolved to live looking forward, unshackled by the past. From the window of my high-rise apartment, Central Park's autumn colors stretched out like a painting. The golden hues of the trees, the crisp air, and the distant hum of the city reminded me of the peace I'd cultivated in my life. I felt no regrets. In fact, the events of that infamous wedding day had brought new meaning to my life. At a recent Metap Farm board meeting, I shared these words: "Living with sincerity, that is what matters most." From the conference room's window, Manhattan's iconic skyscrapers glittered under a cloudless blue sky. A new era was beginning, both for the company and for me. My sister's once dazzling life was now a shadow of what it had been. She reportedly worked at a small accounting firm, her days far removed from the luxury she once paraded. Mother spent her time knitting at home, living modestly. Their days of wealth and influence were distant memories. "There are things more important than money and fame," my sister had written in her final letter. Inside the envelope was a simple photograph of her and Mother. Gone were the designer outfits and heavy makeup. Instead, they looked natural, their faces reflecting a peaceful contentment that money had never provided. Sometimes I walk past the Plaza Hotel, its grandeur as timeless as ever. The events of that day no longer carry the sting they once did. Instead, they feel like distant echoes of another life, a turning point that led me to where I am today. Volunteer work at the Senior Center, leading groundbreaking drug research, and fulfilling my responsibilities at Metap Farm, all of these have become part of the deeply fulfilling life I've built. "Elizabeth is our pride," Dr. Johnson had said from the Mayo Clinic, words that had traveled far within the medical community. But for me, what mattered most was the fact that I had lived true to my beliefs. Manhattan's twilight wrapped the city in its familiar beauty. The setting sun reflected off the high-rise windows, painting the city in hues of orange and gold. The trees in Central Park swayed gently in the autumn breeze, signaling the close of another day. Tomorrow would bring a new beginning, as it always did. And perhaps, I realized, that was life's greatest gift, to live with integrity, to walk your own path, and to carry forward lessons learned. As the evening light bathed the city in warmth, I smiled softly. For all the trials and tribulations, I had emerged stronger, truer to myself, and ready to face whatever the future held.